Hallo, ich bin Ivo Sasek, darf euch begrüßen aus meinem
Hello, I'm Ivo Sasek. I greet you from my closed restaurant here in Walzenhausen, headquarters of Panorama Film and KLA TV. The reason why we are meeting here in this setting is the world crisis. The world crisis which has been heralded for decades by all kinds of experts of all backgrounds. What has always been difficult to foresee, however, was that this crisis would come in the form of hybrid warfare. This means a form of warfare which is waged without conventional weapons, one that is all the more devastating, though. The level of this upcoming destruction will most likely ridicule that of the past two world wars if it gains more momentum, if we fail to unitedly draw the necessary consequences immediately. When I say we, who is meant by we? Exactly with this question, every investigation, every meaningful progress has failed so far. As long as all calls for help are always only addressed to a collective we, experience shows that everything just remains unchanged. Why is that? It's very simple, because then everyone is waiting for someone else. It is interesting, though, in our ordinary daily lives, things are vice versa. Everyone thinks they are more important than the others. Everyone thinks they are more competent than the others. They know better than the others. However, when it comes to general calls for help, something akin to a polar shift occurs. Suddenly a weird humility creeps in and takes charge. In plain language, this means that suddenly no one really feels really competent and responsible anymore. Suddenly it's always the other person who is more responsible or more competent. But this is only one part of the equation. The other part is, when you call the really capable individuals to their duty, you just get the standard answer, well, what am I supposed to be able to do about it? Then the big ego, which spends much of everyday life boasting, shrinks down to a minimum, and they do nothing. That's why in this first part, I will unambiguously, briefly explain what kind of individuals out of this collective we are in demand. First of all, these individuals are people just like me. They have a face, they have a name, and so they stand to lose a lot in every respect. When do they lose something? It's at that moment when they expose themselves and take a stand in public against the destroyers of humanity, when they step out. I have a name, for example. My name is Ivo Sasek, and due to my actions, all that I do, you can find my name everywhere in the newspapers. On the internet you find it almost 1 million times. Unfortunately, though, almost without exception in a totally messed up context. In other words, this means I have an absolutely ruined reputation. A reputation ruined in a way which only the darkest of souls could ruin it. In the bullet hail of my investigative news service, my battle, for 40 years now, almost everything a human being may hold dear has been shot down. Through the medial defamation of my name, I lost practically all my friends, all acquaintances as early as 1980. It's people like this who are in demand, you understand? When we're talking of individuals here who are in demand out of this collective we, I've had 3 professions. All 3 were of no use for me in the shortest time, because I found myself being persecuted, excluded by every market. My rehabilitation center for all kinds of needy people, which I directed with greatest success for 20 years, on a voluntary basis, was bombed out of any licensing approval zone through hybrid warfare. And this even though we did everything free of charge for Daddy State and saved the taxpayer several millions of social expenditures annually. The same happened to my career as writer, book author, film author, as director of big film productions. For the sake of not losing the context, I am talking about which individuals, which kind of individuals are wanted out of the big collective we when it comes to we must do something. Individuals are in demand who are willing to go such ways. Of course, not everyone has the same way, but everyone their own way. Also with my career as writer, book author and film director, the same thing happened. All of my over 20 books, my big new feature films, were bombed from the market by these hybrid warmongers. I also lost a great deal of my health under the decade-long grueling attacks of hybrid attackers. I suffered several breakdowns. I look back on thousands of nights with disturbed sleep or even with absolutely no sleep. And concerning money, finances, I decided very early, already for strategic reasons, to offer all my services completely and only free of charge. Anything else was out of question. With the slogan, "The New World is without money," or "The New World begins at home," I invested all finances, whether personally earned or coming in through donations. I always almost completely invested them into the service of the community, and first of all into the service of investigative news. I did this for 40 years now. This is the reason why my books, films and all other writings or services principally have been available free of charge ever since. As a reward for that, I received all the more massive criticism through mass media and the attacks of the hybrid war collaborators. With their hybrid form of warfare, they contaminated also hundreds of assembly halls. We're speaking of big missiles here. The result was we were locked out everywhere with almost no chance to get any hall any longer. We were locked out everywhere, a consequence of this reputation. And as founder, that is being founder and operator of KLA TV, I currently suffer media attacks almost daily. 2020, I think there was no day without a media battle being directed very personally against me and the people with me. What they have tried for years, almost decades now, they have tried to denounce me in the direction of enemy of the state. That is, I am supposed to be completely bombed from the playing field. And despite all this I just briefly listed here, I can say, tada, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still in the playing field. I stood up to all this inhuman white torture. I cannot find other words for it. And with newly gained volunteers, I stood up against these hybrid war attackers and brought to light their evil deeds and crimes with 15,000 uncovering broadcasts on KLA TV as of now. For only light is able to defeat darkness. Therefore, humanity, first and foremost, needs a worldwide wave of investigative news. I could go on like this for long. There'd be so much more to say concerning the personal investment that is needed when it comes to the collective call, we must do something. But with these brief explanations, I hope I was able to show unambiguously enough which sort of individuals are meant, who are in demand out of the we.
Maybe you now just asked yourselves, how come that exactly you are so massively, so numerously being persecuted? I'll give a very simple answer. The answer is this: I'm being persecuted so disproportionately much and heavily because I've always, in greatest natural readiness, taken the rap for everything everywhere where others missed out on their duty of uncovering. I stepped into the gaps of foreign lines of defense where others did not exercise their responsibility to defend, where they dodge. I can say I've spent decades almost alone on this damn hybrid war battleground. I cannot find other words for it. The first years under constant disdain, under the ridicule of tens of thousands of Christian responsible leaders, who I had called before, even invoked upon in vain, to enter this battle of defense, I finally set out by myself because they all were not ready. And because I always stood in all these gaps, stepped into them, took over the duty to defend from the missing ones, this is why I'm so massively bombarded from all sides, because I'm getting the arrows of all those who are not on the field. Pretty clear, isn't it? If one attacks all attack one. Very simple. Why do they do that? I can only assume self-sparing or cowardice, ignorance, whatever. It doesn't matter. But because I started off despite all these deserters, despite the resistance by the media, politics, the judiciary, and I don't know what, despite all of this, I was still able to collect several thousands of people around me who stand in this fight with me. And this is the reason why it's also the OCG now, which is my main carrier of this whole work of investigative news, that has so massively come under permanent fire in the media. They have come under constant fire by the media, the pharmaceutical industry, the high finance and corrupt politicians. But the good news is, just to say it in between, we are all still here, we are still here, despite of the fact that we have fought these battles over decades representatively. With other words, I want to hint at this and emphasize this. You can also win this hybrid war. Do you know that? You can win it, and we are firmly decided on this. We do not have anything else in our minds. But the question is, how, which way do you win such a hybrid war? And here I start coming to the real point. Because almost all specialists needed for defense opted out of their responsibility for the sake of their reputation, their professions. That's why we, as laymen, really striplings, had, for example, to set up and take care of all 12 KLA TV categories by ourselves. Meanwhile, though, together with about 2,000 voluntary laymen, I have been standing in the gap since 2012 in KLA TV. But the real competent specialists were mostly missing. Do you understand that? They are missing. We as laymen have to wage this battle for them. We wage the battle for the judiciary, we wage the battle against the false media world, we wage the battle for politicians, we wage the battle for the Department of Education, which are all missing out on their responsibility, tantalizing us here, and this under constant fire by the media. So the real fighters are missing. Those in demand who would really have the duty for defense in their field, like professors, scientists, lawyers, public prosecutors, doctors, investigative journalists, as well high-level specialists from the educational sector, the healthcare sector, medicine should have taken this place, but also those from the areas of ideology, the media, culture, politics, technology, economy, science. I could go on and on with the list. Almost all of them were missing and watching our battle from afar. So because all these specialists did not want to risk their reputation, their licenses and income, or just felt above it, that's why we, as underrated laymen, have been struggling to fight through over several decades now under constant ridicule by the media. With the foundation of the AZK, we and I together managed in 2008 to gather competent specialists, I call them defenders of people, in front of a broad public for the first time. It was a decade-long battle. Many of them, as could be expected or feared, were subsequently persecuted just like us. Some of them losing their licenses, some of them even their lives. Do you understand that? And despite of this, we are still here. Do you understand? We are still standing here, are still defending the nations, the peoples, with our own life and limb, with our own belongings. Why? Why are we so persistent? There is a simple answer. It's because a real, hybrid, brutal war is being waged against this humanity. A covered war against all resources, against any freedom, against all capital, against everything we have been working for in terms of culture over centuries. That's why we are still standing here, because this war is raging against humanity. And if we, I repeat that, if we don't stop this war instantaneously, that means with united powers, and it continues to gain momentum like it already has begun, then I, prophetically you could say, tell all the fine gentlemen, all doctors, all professors, and everyone being some sort of well-earning person, I tell you this in advance. You will all be maneuvered out of your comfort zone for sure, sooner or later. You will forfeit them. Your licenses will be of no use then, your wages, your money, it won't be of any use anymore if you do not enter into this hybrid battle and give your part, your expert knowledge that we do not possess, your know-how or whatever is necessary. Your walls, the 4 walls we are locked into right now under the already active martial law, which was imposed on you now, it might turn out like peanuts compared to what is coming, like a little appetizer, a cold appetizer, yes. And just like Amazon, which is we're the largest company, shopping chain already anyway, just like Amazon hired 100,000 new people in these days of crisis to take over the market, whilst the global world market, whilst millions of small businesses are being forced into ruin. As truly as this is happening now, as truly the same world plunderers are aiming at controlling and ruling the whole humanity with, I'd say, a click on the button, like with a joystick. All of this starting on your cell phones, that you love so much, fiddling with them all the time. You do not get it, that this device can also be switched off? These days I was in Germany, working when all the border lockdowns happened. My cell phone was blocked. I looked for a telephone machine where you can put money in. I didn't find any anywhere in town. There are none, only this wireless connection. I wanted to phone via people I didn't know. They all feared to let go of their cell phones. You know the reasons. Why am I telling you this? Just one click and you are out. If one of these hybrid warmongers doesn't want you to have knowledge of something, then you stop knowing about things. I wasn't able to communicate anymore. If they push the button, you do not know in which part of the earth a catastrophe is taking place, some exploitation, some terror attack. Do you understand that? Because you are out. And the point is, all activities are transmitted to this wireless cell phone. Starting with your conversation in your everyday life, to the navigation in your car. Whatever you take, from cashless payment to education, it's all being worked out to function via your cell phone. Did you notice that already? Everything wireless, nothing firmly cabled, nothing physically existent, so to say. Everything prone to be dominated by a click. And whoever does not comply, maybe just like with the curfew we are just experiencing now, whoever does not comply on other levels, on other areas, can be easily isolated and switched off in every respect. This happens by the very same gentlemen who are right at the top of the crisis and profit from it. So, without uncovering news and resistance, it will surely not be possible to drive cars steered by ourselves anymore. Everything will be steered by an unseen hand. The whole area of medicine as well won't be controllable by ourselves anymore. The whole political freedom will go down the drains. Any religious freedom will be over with, as well as any ideological, cultural, or economic freedom. It will be over, just as right now millions of free businesses are forced into ruin. They are forced into ruin. Did you notice that? It's nothing else than a plan to hide a mad financial collapse inside this whole crisis we are having. That's the point. I could go on like this for hours, but I continue my call. Uncover, I say to all nations, investigate for all your worth. Wake up the remaining judiciary. I'm always speaking of the truly installed, legitimized powers, state powers. Awaken the remaining politicians, remaining scientists. With remaining, I always mean those who are not corrupt yet, who are not biased, who still have a heart for the population, who are not finance dictated, not susceptible to blackmail. Many are blackmailed, do you know that? Tens of thousands of politicians, tens of thousands of leaders are blackmailed because they were entangled in dirty stories, very targeted in order to make them susceptible to blackmail, to make them controllable. But we are not talking of that now. I just want to call upon those who are not susceptible to blackmail, who do not have entanglements, no conflicts of interest, and all that sort of things, keeping the usual deceived power structures in their grip. So call to their duty all authorities destined to take responsibility. But what I really want, I do want to conjure the nations. Avoid any form of civil war, because civil wars have been planned by this elite, hybrid war group. Civil wars are the surest means to enforce, push through their program of the New World Order with gruesome violence. Watch what is happening with this virus already now. What kind of powers become active in this, how you are suddenly a capital offense criminal if you do not completely comply, if you do not hold up in your own four walls and lock yourself in, if you do not exactly do what they say concerning shaking hands and patting on the shoulder. Do you understand? It can happen as fast as that. That borders are closed from one day to the other, which no one would have thought possible just a few weeks ago. So civil wars are planned in order that if there are riots, this new world order, rather its implementation, can be justified by them. To implement it with violence. Currently, unfortunately, still much too many legitimate power holders are cunningly being deceived. We don't say they are evil, we say they are being deceived most cunningly. They are victims of a hybrid, unseen, hidden warfare. They are given wrong data. They believe in the good because they have a good heart themselves. They do not see that the others are not as good as they. They see themselves in the mirror. They do not realize they are being outmaneuvered. They do not realize they are being cheated. And the media, whose job would be to uncover things, they are concealing them meanwhile. We have proven this in over 15,000 KLA TV broadcasts with valid evidence. But these good power holders are unscrupulously cheated by the mafia that has crept this way into everything, everywhere. They are being manipulated, instrumentalized, and by all sorts of lies, manipulated over and over again. Our security forces, our military, police, judiciary, they would do their best. If we went on the streets and started a civil war, do you understand that? They would do their duty because they understand it this way, because they think we belong to the wrong side. And they would violently force these civil riots under the already prepared electronic people's control. Do you understand this? The people who are conquering this world, who are manipulating humanity, they helped all necessary technologies with their own sciences in the name of the fight against terrorism. They were created for terrorists, and good trusting governments and so on cling to that and believe it. And that's why we believe in it too, you know. I tell you, we keep up the reasonableness and purpose of these developments, of these security systems. We say, yes, we will use them, what they were developed for the terrorists, for these hybrid attackers, which are attacking this world on all levels. But they insidiously intend to lock up the nations in these unseen electronic cages. They were created for us, for the nations, by these hybrid warmongers. So let's wind their own hangman technologies around their own necks. Let's do this unitedly with legitimized power holders, together with the people. This is my call to all nations. Wake up and see what is happening here. The legitimate power holders do not realize that they are no longer standing and acting in the service of the community or the common good and justice. They do not realize they have been deceived by fraudulent finance cartels, by deceiving pharmaceutical and media cartels, and you could add much more, which is not reasonable due to the time. But these legitimate power holders, they are to direct their energies together with the people against these uncovered criminal minorities. We call upon the judiciary, the remaining judiciary and the true judiciary to examine our KLA TV broadcasts and see if things are like that or not. This is our call. Now I come to the real and decisive point, what is needed now in order not to lose this hybrid war. What it needs now are whole associations of united expert voices. I'm talking of expert voices the whole time. We as laymen have fought your battle. We fulfilled your assignment without being assigned for it really. But now it's your turn. Now it's your turn, and there's no getting around it to the left or to the right anymore. Your united expert voices are needed now, starting with this crisis which we are having now. We need competent, whole associations of whistleblowers who come out of the bushes and testify, and if necessary, start their martyrdom for the common good. We need martyr-like heroes, people who go through the dirt, like we have been going through the dirt for decades now in your place. Now it's your turn. Do you understand that? You see in us that one can survive that. You can survive that even though everything is being bombed down by hybrid warmongers. We need you public prosecutors. Gather, sit together if you realize we are right. Get together, all remaining ones, all doctors. Set out on this way together. Stand in front of running cameras, stand in front of the people, inform them. Competent virologists, first and foremost in this hour. Uncover what is really happening here and what isn't happening. We will keep all the regulations given by the government. We do not call out on defying the government. That's what we are saying. No civil wars, no civil resistance. We accept everything, but we keep a look on what you are doing. We will examine that. We will keep everything what you are saying, but we will not endure everything. That's the point. What we need now are high-ranking whistleblowers from the pharmaceutical industry, high-ranking whistleblowers from the whole media world, journalists who know what's happening, editors who know what's happening. Exit, come out now. This is the last moment where you can still serve the truth. You uncover your cartels yourself now. It's your job to uncover your own corruption in your own ranks. You know, I did the same for 20 years prior to this in my own camp of Christianity. I laid bare their misconduct to all the churches and showed where to repent. Not with words, but with deeds. Yes, I said, come and see, follow us. So just like us, like we have been cleaning up in our own ranks for decades, not by words, not by appeals alone, but by deeds, by saying, look how you can do it differently, okay? Do differently, not just say differently. We lived an example, said, come and see, we presented how we live, we presented how we function. We were not like the politicians from the ivory tower, you know, who just say something they never tried. You can have a look into our family at home, look at KLA TV, how we live, look at Sasek Sasek TV, look at the OCG websites, how we live. You can experience us, see us functioning, how it works in total peace, in total oneness, in total conviction. We cleared up in our own ranks for decades. Now it's exactly your turn. Everyone in his expert area, whether in science or education or culture, no matter what. It needs, in every respect, it needs such whistleblowers, starting with the finance sector, the mobile communications sector. You could go on with the list for ages. Of course, we also look for competent whistleblowers from Freemasonry, from Satanism, from the deep state, who uncover relentlessly what's going on there, so that the upright ones, those left who are pledged to righteousness, may know the truth. So that there will be an end to the double-sided ambiguous game with this lie, with the whole underlying structure of these diabolical works, which are absolutely difficult to uncover due to the missing experts, the missing expert voices, due to missing witnesses. Stand up now, I beseech you, stand in front of our cameras or your own cameras, no matter how, and bring the truth to the light. Or do you really want to watch deedlessly how brave fighters from your own ranks who are entering these hybrid battlegrounds are mowed down because they are too few, because as single ones they are simply overrun and prone to be muzzled? Do you really want to watch this? Do you really, let me put it this way, do you really cowardly want to continue holding back, sparing your life, your reputation, your finances? I tell you, you will lose all of it if this war is not won. If we do not stop with this now, it has become late, it is high time, now we can still change something. And in the shortest time this will not be possible anymore, everyone will bear the consequences of the trouble we caused nearly during centuries by our behavior. We did not keep watch, we did not pay attention to who is governing us, who is doing what. We neglected listening to both voice and counter-voice. This is our absolutely biggest fiasco that we are stuck in. At this point, I would like to honor all AZK and KLA TV speakers who dared to step out, who did not count their own affairs more important, who just took a stand and had their reputation ruined if necessary. But through them the truth reached millions. But I call on the competent expert colleagues of all these speakers and far beyond from all areas of expertise. I call on all colleagues. Find each other, form a front, form a multitude of witnesses who stand against this lying power, become synergic. Yes, start off into the necessary service of investigative news and do as we are doing. I tell you how we did it. We committed ourselves accountably to each other. By giving handshake, we declared ourselves accountable. We said, we go against this hybrid war out of complete freedom, everyone at their own cost. No one asks the other for money. We do everything free of charge. No one does anything for money. It's time to leave the monetary system. We do everything free of charge. We won't manage any other way. I have demonstrated that this is possible. It has been working over 40 years. I demonstrated in Switzerland, which couldn't be more expensive in every respect. I have proven that it works across all crises, and I never made an appeal for donations, never sent a bank account number, never went around somewhere with a beggar's hat, never collected money, never ever, never even spoke about it. And here we are waging this battle. This is meant to motivate you and be enough proof that it's possible, so stop worrying about your own things, about your lives, what you eat, drink, where to live, and all this sort of things. It is time that these worries do not dominate us anymore. And I tell you, if we lose this war, then you have justified worries in all these points. Then these worries are justified. Because then it comes upon you, I guarantee you. I guarantee you. I've been explaining why for decades. You can read it in my books, which I do not want to advertise here though. Whoever volunteers, no matter from which area of investigative news, whoever is willing to gather his expert group, his own expert group, and lead it if possible, For leaders are needed, people are needed who go ahead, who gather the others. Not everyone can do that. But whoever sees himself able to do this or is willing to do it can get in touch with us at KLA TV. He can summon his expert group via KLA TV. No matter whether you are a health professional, journalist, politician or scientist or whatever, you can send your summoning call via KLA TV. If you do not want to stand in front of the camera, send us your statement of readiness in respect to this, and we from KLA TV will make this call. At this present time, associations of united voices from competent virologists are needed, first and foremost. I put this right at the top of the list because this is the current topic that is affecting us now. We need most competent professors, doctors, experts from the healthcare sector. I give you a few names of such people who already spoke on KLA TV or at AZK and so on. Such people are in demand now, who gather the likes of them and step out into the public. People like Dr. Wolfgang Wodarg, or Dr. Klaus Kohnlein, or Dr. Bodo Schiffmann, or Professor Sucharit Bhakdi, or Dr. Hockertz, and so on, and so on. You could endlessly continue. You can get the addresses of those I just mentioned under this broadcast text and contact them. Then it also needs associations of financial experts, people like Ernst Wolf, like Peter Koenig, who spoke at KLA TV several times. We need whole associations who rise up now, political scientists, like one of the League of Gerhard Wisniewski, who whatever kind of player you are, join this man, join people who are ready to present counter voices and come out of your hiding places. We need historians like Dr. Holger Strom or Dr. Daniele Ganser. We need multitudes of politicians who blow the whistle, like Christoph Hörstel or like Thorsten Schulte, who have the courage to stand in front of the cameras here. We also need climate experts like Professor Werner Kirstein or Dr. Helmut Böttiger, that we were able to welcome at the AZK. We need media experts, whistleblowers, as we already said, or whatever, investigative journalists. Associations at a similar level like Jürgen Elsässer or Dr. Ulrich Schlür in Switzerland. No matter what, even if you're a smaller scale, come together with other activists, form a joint front and do not stop investigating. I summarize, what is happening in this world is a hybrid, that is, a hidden, devious, covered war without conventional weapons. However, it has all the more power to destroy and will drive the nations into ruin on all levels, just as is happening now. It is no longer a conspiracy theory, you know? We have prophesied this for years. We have uncovered for years that this game is being played, that the financial ruin of the whole nation, the plundering, is going to take place. We were called conspiracy theorists and damned for it, but what is happening now is a millionfold ruin. It's just happening what we always said it would. Millions of small business are dying, and the big ones who are part of the game, who control it like puppeteers in the background, take everything over now. I could go on for hours what this means, when in the end everything is in those hands who solely are capable to such works. Do you understand? But look at their works. This is what they are capable to, and the whole virus story is the eye cover on top of it. We do not say, don't do anything against the virus. We do not say, act carelessly concerning the virus. We do not say, revolt against it. We say, do everything that you are told concerning this virus, but damn, open your eyes and look who is doing business behind it, who is driving everything into ruin, in unnecessary ruin, if listening to the real competent expert people up to this point. Open your eyes and act. I say it once more, summarizing, these leaders strive for the world's dominion. They strive for one new world order, that is, their new world order. It's exactly theirs, no second one. And just as now only a few have the say concerning all the world, the say over all countries, every household, every border, every supermarket and everything, exactly this way it will continue. And the main powers of these hybrid warmongers against all of humanity, there is evidence that they operate first and foremost from the financial world, from high finance, from the pharmaceutical cartels, from the media. I could add lots more. Study our broadcasts and you'll see who is pulling the strings. KLA TV tries to show the major trends in almost every broadcast. Where from? Where to? What is cause? What is effect? Watch the Ukraine broadcasts again. Watch who is pulling the strings there. Watch the whole thing with the Arab Spring. Watch it always to be the same, the terrorist patterns of 9/11. Watch that it's always the very same powers with the very same methods. Always in the name of good, in the name of fighting evil. They work total enslavement, which we are entering into right now if we do not unitedly rise up and each one presents his or her expert knowledge to the public. And I repeat it once more, this fraud of these hybrid warmongers, their power will not be sufficiently recognized and broken by present politics or judiciary or the military. Therefore, we as laymen had to stand in the gap for decades. We do this due to our constitution. It is our duty to act in self-defense. It's our duty to defend our people if our power holders have blind spots, if our power holders were tricked. Then we as people have the duty to close this gap, and this is what we are doing. And therefore no one should blame us of wanting to terrorize something or trying to seize the power. We just call on the real authorized power holders. Open your eyes, do your duty, step up into your martyrdom if needed, but finally lift up your asses and do something, I conjure you and the whole nations. It's enough now, you no longer hide and stay drawn back and even criticize the whole thing. Study our broadcasts until you realize it's like that. So I close with the call, united resistance has become duty, I want to call it lawful duty, that's what it says in our books of law. United resistance is duty, is law when it comes as far as it has already come. But let's guard ourselves from any kind of civil wars, because exactly those are going to be the surest pretext of these world enemies to push their new world order through with rigorous military violence. Let's not get involved in such, therefore. Stay with investigative news, stay in the Word, stay calm, do not become violent. But rouse the remaining judiciary, rouse the really authorized power holders, shake them up that they do this job. One should not insinuate us a coup d'etat, what is being tried the whole time by the dishonest media. We want to call on the right authorized judiciary and the power holders in politics and the government to do their job. We have done your job long enough. Also the job of the media you are financing with billion-fold contributions annually. We did everything on our own expense. We are completely politically independent. We are religiously independent. We do not have any entanglements. We are not to be manipulated. We do not have any conflicts of interest. We did all of this on our own expense, from our own health, our own free life, our spare time, financed and worked from our nights, and now we are at the point where we say, we do not carry on alone anymore. Now you enter the game, you come into the playing field. You take your part so that we can withdraw in the way we deserve it. We are exhausted. That's what I also want to say with that. But only on the way of prior, thorough, investigative information, all these regular powers, together with the nations, will be able to shake free from these dictatorial elite mafia people, from these plunderers. There will be no other way. Therefore, my final appeal again to all expert circles, do not leave us alone anymore on this hybrid battleground. We have fought in your place so far. Our powers are completely used up. Since 2012, we all work deep into the nights to complement by means of KLA TV what others missed out on, what we had to compensate due to a silent expert world. Every kind of thinkable evil has been ours alone. But now it needs you, it needs all of you. And therefore I end with this: follow this call. Form your expert groups, open your mouths. Stand for a world which is lost otherwise. I am Ivo Sasek, who has been standing before God for 43 years.